Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram.
Good evening and welcome to Satsang with John David. We are at the beginning of a beautiful Vipassana meditation weekend, and if you missed this chance, the next possibility would be from the 22nd to the 24th of November in the Open Sky House in Spain, in Denia, near Valencia. There will be a Christmas retreat from the 23rd to the 27th of December here in the Open Sky House Hittorf, and beginning of January from the 10th to the 31st of January, John David and most residents from the Open Sky House going to India, to Tiruvannamalai, where Ramana Maharshi spent most of his life. And you can join one or all of these events, and information you find on the website johndavidsatsang.international. You are very welcome to visit the Open Sky House as guest or volunteer, especially in January. If you come as a volunteer, your time will be for free. And information you find on the website openskyhouse.international. And you are very welcome to join the meeting tonight by Skype. The Skype address is Meeting John David. Thank you.
Welcome to satsang. So we got some special meditation jokes this week. A student goes to his meditation teacher and complains. My meditation is terrible. Either I'm completely unaware, or my legs hurt, or I fall asleep during meditation. Just terrible. That will pass, replies the teacher in a quiet voice. 1 month later, the student comes back to his teacher. My meditation is wonderful. I feel so present, so peaceful, so alive, just wonderful. Also, that will pass, replies the teacher in the same quiet voice. A woman calls the Buddhist monastery. Could you please come to my house for a blessing? Sorry, said the monk, I'm busy. What are you doing? I'm doing nothing, replied the monk. So the next day the woman phones again. Can you please come today to my house for a blessing? Sorry, said the monk, I'm busy. And what are you doing? I'm doing nothing. But that was what you were doing yesterday, said the woman. Correct, replied the monk. I'm not finished yet. A truth seeker went to an ashram and asked how long it would take him to gain enlightenment if he joined the ashram. 10 years, said the master. Well, how about if I really work hard and double my effort? 20 years. So, actually, this weekend is perhaps one of the most beautiful things you can actually do as a human being. Because we're just going to sit. I mean, it couldn't be any more easy, could it? Actually, you don't have to do anything. You're just going to sit. You see? But what's so beautiful is that you're going to sit alone with a blindfold. So there'll be nobody doing anything to you. Yeah? They won't be talking to you. They won't be looking at you. They won't be touching you. You're just going to be sitting there alone. And so then whatever happens inside you, right, you can be completely sure is your own movie. Yeah? Because nobody's going to be saying something to you that might make you angry. Yeah? You're just going to be alone for 2 days. I don't know. We calculated last time how many hours is it? Quite a lot. You know, it's many hours. But of course, whenever you want, you can lie down and have a sleep. Yeah. So you're completely free. You could sleep the whole weekend if you want. We don't mind. You know, we're not going to hassle you. Well, we might. I mean, I'm not reliable, so we might. But basically, it's all up to you, you know. We've had people who have sat almost like a Buddha statue, hardly moving the whole weekend. And then there are other people who find it necessary to sleep a lot. and other people are moving, constantly moving, you know, between their mattress, their chair, their cushion, and back again. Yeah? So everybody's different. Everybody's different. But what everybody will have in common is that they're completely watching their own movie. So it's a bit like, I don't know how many people we have, about 15, I think. So there's going to be 15 movies playing. So we have 15 different movie screens, and on these screens there'll be 15 different movies, you know, very exciting ones maybe, yeah, maybe a bit boring ones, maybe sad ones, dramatic ones, you know, just like when you go to the local cinema, yeah, they also have a screen, they also project onto the screen a movie, you see. So this weekend you're going to watch your own movie. So the whole idea of Vipassana meditation is that you simply sit and watch. You see, you're the observer. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to engage the movie. You don't have to try to stop the movie. You don't have to try to change the movie. Maybe you don't like the movie, and then you think, well, I don't like this one, let's try a different one. Yeah? You just watch. It's just about watching. It's very, very relaxed, just watching. Completely accepting whatever is coming on your screen. You're just watching. And unfortunately, or most likely, let's say, you might have some emotional reactions to the movie. You might have periods when you feel sad about it, periods when you feel ecstatically happy about it, whatever it is, you see. But like in our joke, whether it's a very happy movie or a sad movie or dramatic movie, tragic movie, it's just a movie. And what's really beautiful is that we tend to get very identified with our movie in the normal life. And Vipassana offers us a chance to kind of detach. And it can happen just by itself, really. That as you watch and you watch and you watch, the one who normally identifies with the movie, we call this one I or me. This one can simply disappear, you see. So the movie still maybe continues, but there is nobody who's really identifying with the movie. And this is very beautiful because that's a release. You get released from your movie. It's like there's nobody watching the movie. The movie's still going on. Maybe the movie becomes quieter. Maybe it's a much slower movie. There might even be gaps in the movie. If you're really, really lucky, the movie just stops by itself. That's also possible. And in a way, because we're going to be 12, 15 people in one space, you're going to find it much more easy to meditate than you might find it in other situations, especially when you're alone. So you may have already noticed tonight when we sat quietly together that there's, 20 people. And so immediately there is a kind of energetic support happening in the room. And you may notice then that it was easier to meditate. Maybe the movie was slower. Maybe there wasn't any movie. Maybe you were just simply quiet. So I can see a great value in this kind of weekend because over the 2 days, there's a very intense energy builds up. And that might happen, I think with this group, it might happen already from tonight. And you will find that when you're sitting, that it is much easier than maybe in other places where you meditate. There is some value in meditating in a group until you become a kind of pretty experienced meditator. And then it probably doesn't make so much difference whether you do it alone or whether you do it in a group. it can get very strong, you see. I mean, we keep a bucket in the room, you should know this, and we've had people vomiting into the bucket. I'm not saying anybody here is going to vomit into the bucket, but if you need to vomit, you put your hand up and we'll bring you the bucket, you see. So, I mean, if you can imagine sitting very, very quiet for many hours, and then such a strong emotions come up inside that you actually are physically vomiting, I mean, in a way, that's quite shocking, I think, yeah? Because normally we would say, you know, you've made me so angry that I, you know, vomited. We don't have too many people vomiting, actually. It's a rare. Had two, I think. I can think of two. Yeah. And those of you who saw the film that we made from, I think it was the last one we did, you saw our friend here, Kashi, and she got a lot of recognition. She saw a lot of things about her mind which maybe she hadn't seen so clearly before. And so this is actually a great value of the weekend, that because you're so much with yourself, there's a chance to really become clear about how the thoughts are working. Because thoughts are just thoughts, actually. There's no problem really with thoughts. You know, there's a thought appears and it disappears, then another thought comes, and there may be many thoughts, or maybe they're kind of become slow and just one thought appears, a little gap, and then another thought. There's no real problem with thoughts. The problem is only when we grab the thought. And of course, normally in our lives, this grabbing of the thought happens instantaneously. There's no gap. It's not like, oh, shall I grab this one? Oh, no, I don't think so. I'll leave that one. It's not like that. I mean, the grabbing is just going so fast that for most of us, the grabbing has already happened before we hardly realize. If you meditate regularly, then some of you will have experienced how the volume or the speed of the thoughts changes, and they go into a bit like slow motion. And then it's maybe more easy not to grab the thoughts. So we have a microphone, cigar. So maybe somebody has a question, you can ask it from where you're sitting. If you would feel to have a more intense meeting, you can come and sit here. But it's totally fine to ask something from where you're sitting. If you have a particular question.
I have a question.
Okay, he'll give you a microphone.
Thanks for the opportunity. My question is not Vipassana related. On your website, you write your biography. And I read that you experienced what you call, I think I remember it right, I don't know if I remember it right, the dark night of the soul.
Really? Yeah.
It
wasn't a night, you know,
Okay.
It was a few months, I think. Or
Okay.
even a year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit familiar with the term, and I was wondering if you could tell me more about it, and in the best case, how to get out of it.
Well, this happened to me quite a few years ago. In my own story, I was a relatively happy, kind of ordinary, happy, middle-class English guy. And then during my 20s, I had quite a good job. But I was very discontented. I couldn't really see any meaning in my life. I was kind of kind of lost in some ways. And probably it wasn't working out like I expected, you know. Wasn't so bad. I had one of these little old Volkswagens, and sometimes I even had a girlfriend, you know, so it wasn't completely hopeless. It was kind of a bit like everybody else's life when you're in your 20s. Had somewhere to live. I was living close in the centre of London near a park, and it was all, in a way, perfectly nice. Had a very good job in an interesting company. But everything somehow didn't really make sense, you know. It wasn't really, it's like, what is this, you know? What is this human life, you know? What are we all doing, you know? And of course, when you live in a big city like London, there are torrents of people all the time, you know. What are all these people? What's the point, you know? What are they all doing? What motivates them, you know? So I think this was the beginning of my dark night, or several nights, you know, even a few months or years. So so I guess first I thought the solution would be to change my job. So I had, for some strange reason, become a structural engineer, designing the structures of buildings. And that seemed pretty interesting when I decided to do that. But when I actually started doing it, it was completely the wrong thing. So then I was doing it in an interesting office, which was also an architect's office. They did quite interesting stuff, and I thought, well, I know what I'll do. I'll go back to university and study to be an architect. You know, that'll be a bit more interesting, a bit more contact with people, and less with, you know, calculations. So then I went back to university, and that seemed to be the solution. You know, my solution would be to change how I live my life, basically. You know, I was going to change how I live my life. But it didn't work. It worked a bit for a short time because there was a sort of new challenge, you know, new people to meet. It was a bit more arty-farty. And so there seemed to be some hope in that. Sort of hope kept me going a bit. But already by the time I was about 28, I'd gone back into hopeless again. And then I met some young Japanese guys, and they said, why don't you come to Japan, you know? And I thought, well, that's a great idea, you know. I've always lived in England. Maybe I can get out of this by going to an interesting country, living in Tokyo, you know. Be lots of new challenges, interesting people, new culture. Let me try that, yeah. So I went off to Japan, and I had some friends, and they offered that I could live in a box on the roof of their office building. So I thought, well, that's very good, because it was right in the middle of Tokyo. You know, Tokyo is even bigger than London, and you know, you can spend 2 hours on the train. So I thought living in the middle in this box would be a kind of cave, you know, and it would be very easy living there to kind of sort myself out, you know. And the Japanese, when you first meet them, they're very, very friendly, and they give you a card, you know, and you think, wow, we're going to be lifelong friends. I've got their card, you know. But unfortunately, when you call them, if you get them at all on the phone, they tell you, well, they're very busy. You know, maybe I can meet you in 3 months or something, you know. So although I had all these cards kind of piling up, yeah, there wasn't, that didn't really work, I realized, because everybody in Tokyo is, well, beyond busy, you know, they're beyond busy. So, so anyway, I was in my box, and basically, you know, I couldn't really engage to the culture. You know, I was a strange Westerner with a beard. Everybody was with black hair, you know, and very clean, and I was a sort of scruffy Westerner. They called us gaijins, you know, which were like the outcasts or something, you know, something like that. And you really felt sometimes like I must have something hanging off my nose, or, you know, the way they're looking at me, you know. So, I mean, basically, I got very isolated, I guess I'm saying, you know. It wasn't what I was maybe hoping for. So I got really, in a way, very isolated. I was living in my box. I had three nice friends who I was in Tokyo recently after 35 years. And then we had a big dinner together, a sort of reunion of our kind of office and my box. And it was very nice. They're very friendly to me. And they were kind of friends, but they were architects and they were working like madmen. You know, you have to work in Japan as an architect like a madman. So, yeah, so then basically I guess I became more and more involved in something like a dark night of the soul, but it was weeks or months or years. And what happened for me was that I started to look at all the things that as an Englishman I took for granted. For example, a knife and fork, you know. Everybody knows a knife and fork is a kind of cultured way to eat, yeah. And the Japanese use two little sticks. And of course, in the beginning I had a kind of judgment about that, yeah. Two little sticks, you know, compared to a knife and fork, wow. And of course, gradually I started to think, well, maybe these sticks are quite clever. You know, they put them in their pocket, and they bring them out, and they used to eat steak. You know, they used to, in the restaurants, they'd cut the steak up into little blocks, you know, for the chopsticks. You could just take a little block of. So I gradually started thinking, well, maybe Japan is really number one. You know, and maybe that's the great culture, you know, and maybe where I'm coming from in England on this European stuff, you know. So I went into tremendous kind of deep searching, first to do with culture, you know. So in Japan, for example, they squat down and the toilet is a little hole in the floor, you know. And of course in the West, we sit on a kind of throne, yeah. So, I mean, all these things, you know, were kind of being examined, yeah. Endlessly, kind of endlessly. And it was a kind of dark time, actually. It was a kind of dark time because although I was having superficial meetings with quite a lot of people, except for these 3 or 4 friends, I was living in the same building, except for those guys, and later I had a Japanese girlfriend who became my wife. It was pretty difficult, I could say, pretty difficult. And then it was very interesting. Existence, I mean, I didn't find any clever solution to your question, what can you do? But existence did something, you see. So I gradually discovered that actually maybe it's not about me doing something, but luckily it did something. And what it did was like a miracle, actually, because what it did was that I went to meet a German architect from MIT. He was a professor. And I went to see him to talk about Japanese architecture because by then I had stopped working in an office and I was working in the university as a kind of research student and apparently doing a project, but actually I wasn't really doing a project, but that gave me a visa. So I stayed 3.5 years in this dark night of the soul situation. And anyway, I went to meet him, and I, of course, had some ideas about what a professor would be like, but he was wearing orange clothes, which I thought immediately was a little bit funny. And then he also had beads around his neck, and he had a picture of Karl Marx. So I'm like, it's a bit strange. And then he took me back to his house, which was a beautiful traditional Japanese house, very sort of architecturally lovely. And we had dinner, we started talking, and I was expecting him to talk about, you know, Japanese architecture and so on. And he started talking about meditation, and gradually he started talking about spiritual masters. And he talked about India and ashrams and about his master. And this was all quite exciting in a way because I'd already started, I came to Japan partly because I was interested in Zen, but I quickly wasn't interested when I got there, but I had some interest. I thought that would be maybe some solution for me. But so we talked all night about all kind of spiritual stuff. And when I finally woke up the next day, probably it was in the afternoon, and as I was leaving in my kind of middle-class English, confused, white-suited, gold-rimmed glass way, he told me, "You're ready for this. You're ready for this." And this was Osho Rajneesh. So he was a disciple of Osho Rajneesh. It wasn't really Karl Marx, it was Osho. And he got me to listen to Osho before I left in the morning. I should listen to Osho talking. I thought, oh, terrible voice, terrible English, Indian English, terrible. And he was saying, well, you're absolutely ready for this. You're ready for this. He had a beautiful Japanese wife with an orange dress. I mean, I was ready for her, but not for... But anyway, so I remember my mind saying, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. It was very clear. But 1 year later, I was in his ashram. And that turned out to be the answer, somehow, to the end of the dark night of the soul, because then I started proper meditation, and then I started to understand, about my mind and all the rest of it. So basically this was like an opening into dealing with the dark night of the soul, because unfortunately I didn't know what to do. I had no idea how to get out of it. I mean, what you're asking, I didn't know the answer to that. And the existence, I probably got quite desperate, and there was like a call, somehow from my being, maybe there was a kind of calling, and I got some answer. And the answer was that I went to India and ended up in his ashram, Osho's ashram. And that gradually, the dark night of the soul disappeared, and everything changed. And that's kind of continued, I can say.
That's comforting.
What?
It's comforting.
Comforting. Yeah. Yeah. I think out of this story, or out of what I discovered from this story for myself, because it goes on, that story goes on, of course, is that there is something which on some level hears us, on maybe in an energetic kind of hearing. And so if in fact you are genuinely having these questions that you can call a dark night of the soul, you're examining, if you like, what's this life? If this is a really fundamentally true question, then there is some kind of response. And it's not maybe the response that we expect, because I wasn't having any idea to go and live in an Indian ashram. That wasn't even, I couldn't have even had that idea. So I think that was a big lesson for me. It was the beginning of understanding that there's another whole possibility, and it's not just the movie, it's not just me and my movie. And that gradually got more and more clear in the years that I spent in that ashram, actually, around Osho. Anyone would like to come? Okay. Take it a bit closer, and then we'll just start a bit quieter, because it's a Vipassana meditation weekend.
Microphone is a bit too close.
Bit close? Take it down a bit. Take it down a bit. Yeah. That's good, yeah. That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
So I can talk now?
A bit. What's your name?
Christine.
Christine.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
I would like to have more self-discipline. I sometimes feel like a failure. I know I'm not, but sometimes I feel like a failure. Because I think I don't have enough self-discipline. getting out of bed early and doing first things first, and so on.
And where or what do you judge your ideas against? You know, have you got a kind of model of how it should be?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some successful people.
They have a perfect model of how to be successful.
I think there are many. One could be Robin Sharma. He's very popular.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book, The 5 a.m. Club.
Yeah, he gets up at 5 o'clock, does he?
Yeah, I think so. Or even earlier.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, some other successful people that I know get up early too.
Really?
Yeah, begin to meditate at 6
Really?
or 6:30.
Right. So you're hoping that if you would do that, you would be successful. And because you can't do that regularly, you feel you could be a failure.
Successful and content.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, I think I've never got up at 6 o'clock. So I guess I must be a failure on your ideas.
No. For what I want to accomplish.
You have some ideas of what you'd like to accomplish. Yeah. And that needs more time, so you need to get up very early to get started. Is that the idea?
I think that, yeah, getting up earlier and having more energy. I sometimes feel tired,
Right.
and in the evening I can't go to bed. I don't want to. And
Right.
every morning I tell myself, today I go to bed early. And then I
I see. It sounds like you had the kind of mother who had those ideas too, you know? And she used to tell you, come on, darling, get to bed now. And you were like, no, one more game or...
Nobody told me.
No?
No. But yeah, I tell myself today.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you would get up very early in the morning and you do what you're planning to do to be very successful, what then?
What?
What then? What's when you became very successful because you were getting up very early and had lots of time? And what then when you became very successful?
What then?
Yeah. What's then going to happen?
I would be joyful, content.
Would you? So joyfulness
so.
and contentment comes out of being successful, does it?
Yeah, successful in my terms, accomplishing what I want to accomplish.
Okay. And who's deciding that?
Yeah, me.
Ah.
It's me, yeah.
So if you would decide something a bit lesser, you know, instead of aiming for the Mount Everest, you said,
yeah,
well,
I do.
down the road there's a little hill, you know, and I could actually walk up there every morning, you know. That doesn't work for you.
No.
Only Everest. Uh-huh. Okay. But do you see my point? Because you could actually change your ambition, you see. And maybe if you only can be content of going up Mount Everest, and, you know, that's going to be maybe a whole lifetime's project to get up there, and yet down the road there's this nice, cute little hill, and when you get up there, you know, there's a beautiful view. But that doesn't work because you have some idea, maybe. You have an idea. Yeah? And then, of course, you know, if you would be doing your dark night of the soul kind of time, you would then examine about this idea. Yeah, what is this idea?
My idea.
I mean, like, where did the idea come from? You know, because usually we have some kind of conditioning that gives us certain ideas. Yeah.
Oh, difficult. I don't think it's an idea of another one. I think it's my idea or from the universe. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a direct connection to the universe. And
Sometimes.
the universe suggested you could become joyful if you accomplish this goal. It doesn't sound like the universe to me. It sounds more like, it sounds like it could be a conditioned mind, you see, because the universe is more like to say, right now you can be joyful and content.
Yeah, you're right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You see? You could even be content waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
you know? There's no kind of rule that says you can only be content if you wake up at 5 in the morning. Yeah?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So this is sort of, we're getting into the realm of the dark night of the soul now, you see, that you start to examine all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a sort of wonderful adventure because it goes on and goes on, you know. And there's always layers and layers and layers, you know. So, okay, you have this idea, you know, if I get up at 5 o'clock and I accomplish all my goals, then I will be joyful and content. This is your idea, actually, and you can examine that idea and say, well, is this really true, even?
Yes, it's true, and what you say is also true. I can be content now.
You could be if you didn't have this idea.
Sure.
But you can't be content sitting on this chair at 9 o'clock in the evening when you have the idea that you only can be joyful and content if you get up at 5. What time did you get up this morning?
I think it was 7. 7? Or,
7.
Yeah, I
Right.
think so.
Oh, you would have been in. We start our meditation at 7:30, so we have a sort of leisurely beginning to the day, you know. So you would have been just in time.
Yeah. Good. I have big dreams, big goals, and I think I can't reach them when I'm not more self-disciplined.
Where do you get that idea from? From in there,
From
really?
me, I don't know.
Yeah. And where did you get the idea of me from? This is
The
the thing
society.
about this is exactly, from society, probably from your family and your close friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we take on these ideas without really examining them because they kind of come into us slowly. You know?
Yes, and they are in the language too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in the language and they're sort of hanging in the air. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so something like this weekend is a chance to look at all that stuff, you see, because you're going to sit there and there'll be all kind of, you know, how I can become joyful and content ideas passing by, you know. And then you might, at some point, you might forget about all that, you know.
About
and
what?
You might forget about all your goals and your self-disciplines and your ideas. And then you might suddenly find I'm joyful for no reason at all. And then what?
Good.
Because if that would happen, you would have to decide that it doesn't matter about getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's not maybe the way to be joyful and content is not through your ideas, you see. I mean, I often give the example of Hollywood people, you know, people who have been successful in Hollywood and who live in maybe a big house there with a gorgeous car and lovely friends, and you know they're a bit famous. Maybe they're considered very glamorous people, yeah, man or woman. So they've come to Mount Everest, you know. They conquered Mount Everest, you know.
Yeah.
And are they the happiest people you can meet?
No.
Because if you read the gossipy sort of magazines, they're always in some kind of thing, you know, some kind of drama. Yeah? So it seems that if you're very successful in the terms of those Hollywood people, it's one way we gossip about them because we think they're the kind of pinnacle of success in some way. Yeah? But they're not happy actually, and their family life is often very not really very content, I would say.
I would like to do some things.
Well, you
the
know,
words.
there's a nice story. Have you heard? This is a good story for you. So Alexander the Great, you've heard of him, I think, yeah?
Alexander, who?
The Great,
Yeah.
Alexander the Great. So he was, you know, a leader. He was an emperor, yeah? And he had a huge army. So he decided that if I want to be happy and content, I need to conquer the whole world, right? Then I can be happy, right? So he organizes this huge army, right? And off they go, you know, and he's in the front of the army, and he's got a beautiful white horse, and, you know, he's the emperor, you know. And they go across this bridge, and then he looks down, and next to the river, right, lying in the sun, he sees a naked man, right? And there's something about this guy, and so he stops his horse, he stops his whole army, right, who's going off to conquer the world. And he goes down and he stands next to this man, yeah? He has some energy, there's something about this man, yeah? And he asks this man, you know, anything I can do for you? And the man says, well, you could move out of the sun if you don't mind. And then they start some dialogue, you see. And this is a guy called Diogenes, is it Diogenes? Huh? Yeah, anyway, I'm not very good at
Or
pronunciation.
Dionysos?
He's a famous Greek mystic. He's a mystic, you know. So he's lying there in the sun, you know, taking a sunbath, and Alexander, you know, he stopped his whole army. He's off to conquer the whole world. But there's something about this man, you know, that touches Alexander, you see. And he has the idea, well, I'll just conquer the world, and then I'll come and sit next to the river, you see. So, of course, you know, we all know the story. He goes off and he conquers a lot of the world, but actually never made it back. Somebody killed him. So this is quite a nice story if you have a lot of ambition, I think.
It is, yes.
So would you like to do a little experiment on this subject of contentment?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so you close your eyes and I'll close my eyes. So we're just tuning in a bit together, keeping our eyes closed. Okay, so I would ask you to keep your eyes closed for maybe 10, 15 minutes. And just look inside now and see what is going on inside. So there may be thoughts. There may be some thoughts. There may be emotions. There may be a physical sensation. Or indeed, there may be nothing happening, maybe just very quiet. So just look and bring your attention to whatever is the strongest.
Shall I tell you?
And then you can tell me, yeah.
Yeah, emotion.
Okay, so bring your attention now to that emotion, the strongest emotion. And just stay there with that. And don't try to change anything. Just accept it as it is and keep your attention on that. So what's happening now?
I don't know how to say this in English exactly. Ich will ausbrechen.
I want to break free.
What?
I want to break free.
Break free,
Okay,
yes.
so
some kind of anger.
okay, so stay with this feeling of wanting to break free.
Mm-hmm. I'm so sick of all of this.
What is all of this?
Society, the rules of society. Having to work each day, and
Right.
so on.
Right. Okay, so stay with this kind of strong, pissed off feeling.
Yeah, that's it.
And what's happening inside now?
It's kind of vanishing a little bit,
Okay.
but I don't understand it. It's still strong, but
Right.
I don't know where it is now.
Okay. So just stay with that strong feeling which you don't know where it is.
It's not so easy to hold it.
To hold what?
To stay with this anger,
It's changing.
because I don't want to. I don't want to feel this anger.
You like anger, yeah. Well, one of the things about feelings is they change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like thoughts change and feelings change. So maybe as they change, you just keep bringing your attention to whatever is the strongest. What's happening now?
I'm bored of playing this game.
Okay. So stay with that feeling of being bored.
Now I'm getting tired.
Okay, stay with being tired.
I would like to become unconscious and not thinking about it anymore.
Okay, you know how to do that? Okay, so when you're ready, maybe you open your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But you saw how it kept changing, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So if it kept changing, that probably wasn't you, was it?
No.
Was there anything that didn't change?
Me?
Me? And how would you define me?
A presence.
A presence?
A being.
Ah,
Somebody who observes all
right.
this.
So the observer, that didn't change. There was
Yeah.
constantly an observer, like there was a screen, and then on this, in the observer's view, things changed.
Yes.
So the constant was the observer.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's you, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's always there. Maybe you're always there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constant. Unfortunately, we're not constantly there because we get easily distracted by something or other, feeling, a thought or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is, in a way, what you're going to find this weekend, you see. Because the possibility is that we become less interested in all the changing phenomena, and we become more aware of what doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
And if we stay with what doesn't change, then that might make the weekend quite interesting.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm curious.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you done something like this before?
No, never.
No? Never. But you meditate sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Okay. Wow. Okay, well, yeah. And what I would say to you and to everybody else, if during the weekend, you know, I don't know, being bored gets too strong or something, you know, you can always ask for somebody to come and talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to just get up and rush out, you know. So at the moment when you would get up and rush out, I mean, probably none of you are going to do that, but if that would come up, try not to rush out, yeah. So before you rush out, get somebody, there'll be always somebody there, and you can, they will come and they whisper in your ear, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Yeah, so there's always that support if you need it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
nice.
Thank you.
Would you like to come? I don't know your name, but I remember we spent some time in India together. You want to come and sit a minute? Was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Huh?
Yes, 2 years.
2 years ago. You're from Holland, yeah?
From Holland, yes.
And you work in the government.
Still.
Still. Right. All right. But there is a big difference now, yeah?
I don't know.
Yeah, because I was watching you, you know. Now you can become very quiet, actually. So, I mean, it's interesting for me because when we met you came to the Indian retreat and actually did quite well, I thought, and I invited you to join my group that meets every 3 months, yeah?
Yes.
And you said, no, something or other. You had another plan anyway. And now we meet again after 2 years, and of course you've become a meditator, yeah? So you actually have a certain power now, I can feel, in your eyes. You have an ability to become very quiet. Is that right?
I'm doing more meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that alone or in a group?
For now, alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also try to do it in the morning.
Yeah?
Get early up.
Oh, it's 5 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's had a good effect, you know.
Okay.
Definitely. I was immediately seeing that, you know, that you become much quieter or able to be quiet.
Yeah. I find myself always quiet, but I don't know if I'm more quiet or
Well,
maybe in a different way. But
as I remember you, I mean, I may not have a correct memory, but how I remember you, you're much quieter now. You have much more capacity to just be present. So what have you been doing for 2 or 3 years has been having a value, I would say.
Yeah, that's also maybe something I got from India. Yeah, that like not believing my thoughts that much. Yeah, so that I might be fooling might be fooled by my thoughts.
And has anything changed in your life in the last 2 years?
No.
Nothing? You
Nothing's.
work in the same government office?
Yeah.
And
Same house.
Same house, same wife.
Yes.
And has she noticed anything changed?
No, I don't think so.
No? And have you got kids?
I have 2 boys.
Oh, I'm sure they've noticed difference. Have they? Often children are very, they can easily feel this kind of changes.
Yeah, I always have a good relationship with the boys. So
but
like
better now than...
being close with them.
Because I remember years ago I had a meditation group in Sydney in Australia, and there was a mummy coming to my group pretty regularly, and she'd got, I don't remember exactly, some children. And when she didn't go, they would tell her, hey, Mum, you need to go next week. You're much nicer when you've been to meditation.
I told my boys I would come here,
Yeah.
but they could not imagine anything by closing the eyes for 2 days and doing nothing.
They're probably going to have a wild weekend playing football and
Yeah, stuff like that.
going to a party and...
Yeah, not that all, but like 9 and 11. So
yeah.
no parties, but
Right.
have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you're here on Sunday night, we're going to show this film. And in this film, she has now, I was saying earlier, she has a 9-year-old little girl. And when I met her 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, this little girl was, 4 or 5. And she was a bit strange, actually. We all thought she was a bit strange, but actually she was very quiet. She's one of these children that's not really, there's something not quite normal, And what it was, what we felt, was that she had a real sense of silence, It was very touchy when she was 4 or 5. And now she's 9, now she comes and sits in the group and enjoys sitting in the meditation with us. And sure enough, I can feel that this is some central part of her life, you could say, this being quiet. It's very beautiful, and I can feel that there's a depth, that you can meet her being, actually. So this is a bit mysterious because, her mother's also got that depth, so maybe it's an influence from Mummy. But because she's so young, there's a feeling that she's kind of arrived like that to some extent. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't have any questions, I think.
Yeah, it's like, for me, it's always like doing my best, like do good meditation, and how do I get a good meditation, and like you said, yeah, just watch. And I was first I was thinking, well, I watch my breath, and I watch thoughts come, and maybe give them a name, like remembering or planning.
I mean, I think I would advise everybody not to get too involved with your thoughts. Don't start sort of analyzing them and fighting with them and judging them. These kind of things aren't really very helpful.
No.
Just observing them. They come, they go, come, they go. And then maybe you notice that they're not coming. There can be suddenly a break, and it changes.
Okay.
Do you have this experience with your meditation, that sometimes it gets very quiet?
Yeah, sometimes it gets it gets more calm.
Right. That's good. Yeah. And have you had some moment where it was very, you were very content and very peaceful?
Yeah, sometimes it goes very quickly. Like times, it's always. I'm not doing meditation for a long time, like 15 minutes. But sometimes it goes quickly.
All right.
But that's not like, but that I'm busy with my thoughts. It feels good. And then, toying. So that's the experience that I have sometimes.
Well, we'll see how it goes this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice to meet you again anyway.
Yeah.
And I think you've definitely got a value from regular meditation.
Okay. Good to hear.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Nice. Okay, well, we have to get to our islands before the sharks get restless. Yeah. What do I have to do now? Okay. Good night. Goodbye. Thank you. I was looking for something.